My next guest was used also in worshiping the devil, participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations. She is currently in extensive therapy, suffers from multiple personality disorder, meaning she's blocked out many of the terrifying and painful memories of her childhood. Meet Rachel, who is also in disguise to protect her identity. You come from generations of ritualistic abuse?
Yes, my family has an extensive family tree, and they keep track of who's been involved and who hasn't been involved. And it's gone back to like 1700.
And so you were...
Right, I was born into a family that believes in this.
And does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl.
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family.
Really? And so who knows about it? Lots of people now.
I talked to a police detective in the Chicago area, and several of my friends know, and I've spoke publicly before. And
so when you were brought up in this kind of evilness, did you just think it was normal?
I've blocked out a lot of the memories I had because of my multiple personality disorder. But yes, I mean, it's like if you grow up with something, you think it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought
So what kinds of things? You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things?
Well, before we continue, one thing that I do want to point out, as Mehdi points out, their flag does have the satanic pentagram on it. You know, I never really thought about the Star of David and what it actually represents, but my understanding is that it is an evil symbol, is essentially what it is. And so that doesn't really surprise me. And this level of abuse is very real. Now, keep in mind, this is a clip from a time where you didn't have social media. So it was a lot easier to do these types of pagan rituals, blood sacrifices, as the things that we're learning in the Epstein files in terms of spirit cooking and whatnot, which is essentially what she's alluding to here. And the saying when it comes to Jewish Zionism has always been, they don't actually believe in God, but they believe that God gave them Palestine. So in that respect, should not come as a surprise.
Went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to, you know...
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in their family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not, or they would supposedly go away for a while and then come back. The other thing I want to point out, not all Jewish people sacrifice babies. I mean...
No.
The fact that she even feels the need to make a statement like that, I just want everyone to know that not all Jewish people eat babies. Well, you know what? Not all Jews are Zionists. How about that? And the one thing that we have learned is that the conflation of saying that everybody's the same and that if we just deal with the Jews, if we just got rid of the Jews, everything will be fine. No, that's what they want you to do. And this is what I've been constantly trying to remind people. Zionists survive and thrive by the conflation that Judaism and Zionism are the same thing. So even somebody who is in that world, who has done a lot of evil things, just wants people to know, not all Jews are like us. We're not all crazy. Yes, we're aware. And the same is true for every culture, race, creed, etc. So that's why it is imperative that we do not, there is a distinguish with a difference. And that's what this is. But it is pretty hard to hear that this is the type of behavior that goes on. And as she's alluded to, this is something that goes on with a lot of people. Now, again, as I said, this was done during a time where there was no social media. So being able to get that message out there, and even in a sea of over 900 people watching live, there's still going to be one scum-sucking bitch who's going to show up in the chat and say there's no such place called Palestine. Okay. The good news is, if we do it based on the ratio of all the other people that are here that say that Palestine is not only a place, but that's what's really there and not Israel, it's about 900 to 1. So I would say that the numbers are actually in our favor. Trust me. There's not that many out there that actually believe in this. The problem is that a lot of people who are in this world are at the very top of society. And as capitalism has showed us time and time again, a lot of people are willing to sacrifice their integrity and everything they stand for a piece of that success, even at the detriment of humanity. We have more to say.
It's not a very
we kind of know
thing.
that.
I just want to point that out.
This is the first time I heard of any Jewish people sacrificing babies. But anyway, so you witnessed the sacrifice.
Right. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Uh-huh. Power.
Yes, we remember Warren Jeffs. We remember all of these different religious cults, like the Mormons, like the Scientologists, like the Zionists. History has shown that religion has always done more harm than it does good. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in the possibility of God, and I do follow Christ's teachings. However, the more likely answer is that we're just here. There's no rhyme or reason, as much as people want to know why. And I get it. But just remember, religion has always been used as a weapon against humanity. And this is a prime example of that. This woman is freely admitting that her belief, or the beliefs that were bestowed upon her from a very young age, led her to human sacrifice. And not just any human sacrifice, sacrifice of a child, an infant. You think she's lying? I don't.
And so, were you ever used? Were you ever used yourself?
I was molested. I was raped several times.
Mm-hmm. And what's your mother doing?
She's
in all of this. What's her role in all of this?
I'm not exactly what her role is. I haven't, recovered all of my memories, but her family was extremely involved. Mm-hmm. She brought me to it. Mm-hmm. Both of my parents brought me to it.
And where is she now?
She lives in the Chicago metropolitan area. She's on the Human Relations Commission of the town that she lives in, and she's an upstanding citizen.
Do you understand what the point is of this, ladies and gentlemen? And the point that I've been trying to make for the longest time when it comes to the people that are psychopathic or sociopathic in the society that we live in today? They're all amongst us. They're our neighbors, they're friends, community and organizers, those that are involved. And I'm not saying that they're all like this, but they're there. They exist. Which is why so many years ago, and again, I haven't done a full expose on Seth Rich as of yet. I think we could probably put that in at some point. When you think about the information that came out back when the files were released by WikiLeaks on the eve of the 2016 Democratic National Convention, everyone was so caught up in whether or not the Democratic Party had rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. It's pretty clear that they did. But what was not talked about, which was really the crux of why I believe that Seth Rich had to be removed, is because he revealed the first origins of Pizzagate and the origins of spirit cooking, including the activities of one John Podesta, who ran Hillary Clinton's campaign and has been a primary fixture in the Democratic Party machine and DC politics for about 5 or 6 decades. Can't have those loose ends floating around. And this is just another person who has lived in that satanic-like world where that type of behavior goes on. And in the end, it's all Her cognitive development is stunted. This woman is clearly what I would say is probably in her 40s. But you would think that her personality is described to be that of a teenager. She's still a child and will never be the same for what she's been put through. And I'm sure she feels a great deal of guilt for what she participated in. But at least she's willing to say it. I tell you, if that were at all possible, I would sign up for it because the world would be a better place. There was a time where perhaps that was a much needed component to everyday life before real development came along thousands of years later. But today, what more could it be done for? It certainly provides a lot of evil. And I'm not saying it doesn't do a lot of good for a lot of people, it does. But we cannot ignore the evil that comes with it as well.
Nobody would suspect her.
Were you raised with a sense of right and wrong, Rachel?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I had both. I mean, to the outside world, everything we did was proper and right. And then there were the nights that things changed, that things just got turned around. What was wrong was right, and what was right was wrong. That's what helps to create somebody to develop MPD.
Mm-hmm. Multiple personalities.
Right, right.
Now, in your family, did you all call it worshiping the devil,
No,
Rachel? Or
I don't know.
It was just evil, these things you did.
Right. Well, I said it was evil, and they said it was good. There's a book that I had just come across called Lilith's Cave, which is a book of Jewish mysticism and supernatural. And there's a lot in that book that relates to what I, endured when I was a child.
Now, all these years later, you would ask yourself, as we come full circle with somebody like Oprah Winfrey, who has basically said absolutely nothing regarding the Palestinian people, even though I would certainly say that of all the celebrities that had the greatest impact on Obama rising above the Clintons in 2007, 2008, I do believe that Oprah probably had the greatest amount of impact. When it comes to the humanity that should be shown and the impact that she could have, she's chosen not to have it. And so I take you back 8 years to this article in the Times of Israel. Now, if you guys remember, there was talk, particularly going into the 2020 presidential election, that the Democrats could only think of, well, what celebrity do we need to get to run for president and who could beat Trump? Oprah Winfrey would probably be a pro-Israel president. Yeah, that's interesting. The media personality's positive relationship with Jewish leaders and the Jewish state stretches back at least a decade. Because this is the world we live in, buzz is now building around Oprah Winfrey running for president in 2020. Winfrey sparked the speculation with a speech at the Golden Globes in which she praised women who had come forward with stories of sexual abuse, declared that the time is up for abusive men, and promised girls that a new day is on the horizon. She also spoke about the importance of a free press that keeps us from turning a blind eye to corruption and to injustice, to tyrants and victims and secrets and lies. It's hard to say what policies the iconic talk show host would support as leader of the free world, but let's make her president anyway. We don't know what the hell she stands for or what the hell she would do to make society better, but she's popular, so, and she's a black woman, so let's make her president. Because who cares about policy and who cares about the American people? But one thing we can expect, President Oprah Winfrey would probably be pro-Israel, because in the end, that's what really matters. Winfrey has had a positive relationship with Jewish leaders and Jewish state stretching back at least a decade. In 2007, she was honored by Holocaust survivor and Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel. Now, why is that such a significant piece of information? I'll tell you why. Because if anybody knows anything about the Zionist cause and the deliberate lies that were told about the Holocaust, what happened, what didn't happen, who it happened to, who it didn't happen to, as Friend of the show, Norman Finkelstein, has pointed out time and again, when it came to the tattoo, and it was only done at Auschwitz, those that were there wanted to remove it, and those that weren't, that wanted to benefit from it, put it on. Now, I believe he said that to us, and I believe he said it to Candace Owens as well. If anybody is the eye of the hurricane when it comes to the Zionist grifting class, Eli Weitzel is at the head of the class. He is as bad as anybody that there has ever been. Now, he's long gone, but man, let me tell you, that whole class, that Zionist class was born, the grifting Zionist class was born from Eli Weitzel. He's the one that truly started all of this. So it should come as no surprise that he loves Oprah Winfrey. Though the trip doesn't appear to have happened upon receiving the award, yet news reported Winfrey expressed sympathy for Israel's fight against terrorism, because of course she would. No, Israel's the terrorists. That's who does it. That's how this all gets tied together. And as we now know, when it comes to somebody like Oprah Winfrey, and like so many others that claim to care about humanity, they don't care if in any way, shape, or form it affects their empire. Do you know that Oprah owns 1,000 acres of land on the island of Maui by Lahaina? I heard it's as much as 2,000. The one thing I can say with confidence at this point that I hope many of you agree with, the days of celebrity culture truly dictating the terms of society she also gave us Dr. Phil. Don't forget about that one. You are an idiot. Yeah, Oprah's, she's bestowed quite a few interesting characters upon us. So when we can dig back into the archives and say that she probably knew a lot of these horror stories, not just the ones that she necessarily put on her show back in 1989 and years prior. Remember, the talk show circuit was a big deal in the 80s and 90s. Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, Oprah, Geraldo Rivera. But then eventually it became smut TV, leading, of course, with Jerry Springer, Jenny Jones, and the list goes on and on. I was a fan of Montel. I thought he did a decent job. But the point is, to think that Oprah didn't know, that she didn't have a clue, she knew, and she does know. And that's why we cannot put people that are celebrities on a pedestal. It brings the entire conversation of the night full circle, because it also addresses an even more critical point when we're talking about what is going on with the NBA. Celebrities are not your friends. They are not your heroes. And in most cases, you really don't want to meet them.